Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Putt.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Today is the 27th of April, 2016. It is Wednesday. Our sun sign is in Taurus. Our moon sign is in Capricorn. Okay, Taurus and Capricorn. So a reminder, Taurus, represented by the tarot card of the Hierophant. The Hierophant is a spiritual teacher. The Hebrew letter Vav, nail or hook, is about hooking the spiritual to the physical. That's what makes the Hierophant the spiritual teacher, because he's bringing spirit down into the physical. Okay, because otherwise we're just a meat suit. Okay, it's just a suit that we wear, but spirit resides within this suit, and that's the whole secret with it. The Capricorn, represented by the card of the Devil, is the opposite extreme. This is the card that wants you, first of all, it's an earth sign, and it's a card and an understanding of a principle that the physical takes precedence over everything else. That's what this card is trying to tell you. However, the Hebrew letter assigned to this card, Ayin, means eye, and the whole idea is about looking through illusion, seeing past illusion, because the illusion is that this physical reality is the be-all, end-all of everything. The truth is that there's fire, water, air that make up the earth. But this is something trying to convince you that earth is all that there is, and therefore believing there's only material reality, one becomes ignorant of their true nature, and therefore they are chained to a block of ignorance, which is what this represents. Knowing the story of Yaldabaoth, this fits right into the story of Yaldabaoth, a being who was ignorant because of the way in which he came into life in an unnatural way. And then once he did find out the truth about God, he became arrogant and continued to go on, simply wanted to rebel against that which he knew, because he wanted just to express the earth, the physical. And that's what's going on down here. Okay, we're the physical beings that are being manipulated by this mindset. This isn't a real being, but there's a mindset here behind this dark energy, materialistic energy, that all comes from this Yaldabaoth ideal that is out there. So we need to rise above our natures by hooking the spiritual with the physical. Remember, the conscious mind is a period of time that lasts over a whole month, the sun sign, whereas the moon sign just lasts every 2.5 days. So the unconscious mind is continuing to move, continuing to think, while the conscious mind is processing things over a longer period of time. Some of the aspects we're looking at today take place starting at 9:53 a.m. We have the sun and the moon. Taurus and Capricorn are going to be in a trine with each other. So a nice opportunity for these two energies to interact in a positive manner. 4:56 p.m. Neptune jumps into the mix. Neptune says we need to take a new perspective on things. Okay, we need to take a new perspective on things in regards to Capricorn. So Neptune is sextile with Capricorn, the moon sign. So we're looking at the material world. We need to look at it differently, upside down even. At 8:45 p.m. tonight, Jupiter is going to expand all that we've experienced over the course of this day in regards to Capricorn. Jupiter is going to expand that energy out, but there's going to be a nice positive aspect between it with this trine. Okay, so if we look at this, the whole purpose is to try to understand what are the energies around us on a daily basis. Okay, astrology is simply looking at the idea that there is some sort of energy construct around us, and we through studying the placements of the stars and the planets and the ways in which their energies bounce off each other, intersect with each other. These are called aspects. The way in which those aspects occur and all of the astrology helps us to understand this construct we're moving in. So if we can understand what it is and how it's operating and maneuvering, we can work with it a little bit better. That's just the whole idea. So we look at it just like we would at any other weather. Okay? So we need to be aware of our conscious mind in the place of the Hierophant, which means, we need to appreciate the physical but reach out to the spiritual. And the devil is there to tempt us to say, no, 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 there's just physical. There's only physical. Don't look past that. But we do look past it because we understand that there is more to it. Okay? Moving on from here. The moon phase is 74.9% of the way there. May 6th is the target date we're moving towards for the new moon. Jewish calendar today is the 4th day into the Passover celebration here. It is the day 19 Nisan. Omer count day 4. Tonight will begin day 5. The daily thought for today is Exodus from delusion. One day we'll each awaken to the realization that all that we imagined ourselves to be was delusion. We are godly souls. That soul will shine, all souls will shine, all the world will shine. That is the journey of Exodus that we have been traveling for more than 3,000 years. That is its final stop around the corner today and at every moment. The Dreamspell Oracle, we're at a 12-tone day. It's the end of this theme. The wave spell of the mirror, which is the reflection coming right back at us. So we are the movie that is being played. The movie is being projected through us into the world. The world is reflecting back to us that which is showing on the inside of us. So if we're able to decipher, then we can understand a bit better. So today, according to this particular system of the Mayan calendar, but with some corrections and things made by Jose Argelis, we have the Zolkin calendar. We're in the middle pillar right now. We're on a 12-tone day. So it's called the crystal tone of cooperation, and it's all about purification. Purification guided by nurturing, birth, the dragon. The phrase for today is I dedicate in order to purify universalizing flow. I seal the process of universal water with the crystal tone of cooperation. I am guided by the power of birth. Solar wind, 445.8 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index quiet at a 2, possibly up to a 3 over the next 24 hours. Large coronal hole forming or moving towards the middle of the sun, facing our direction. So towards the end of the week, we should be feeling the effect from there. M-class flare possibly an X-class, both at 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity is at 10% in the mid-latitudes. Upper latitudes a little higher, about 20%. Other than that, the universe is just making a slow exhale before it begins to inhale again. Up in the sky tonight, we see the moon. Directly below the moon, a little off to the left, we see Sagittarius. This is, as it says, looking south. Face north just after nightfall. Look very high and you'll find the pointers, the end stars of the Big Dipper's bowl, on the meridian pointing towards Polaris straight down below. From the pointers to Polaris is about 3/5 arm's length. Okay. There you go. That's our cosmic weather for today. That brings us up to the UFO news, which is next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today's UFO News Report has 5 stories to it. Story number 1. Biggest collection of Australian UFO files to be released May 1st, 2016. Okay, we have the link here, taking us to a source over at Facebook. It says this is fantastic news. UFO Australia sites not up yet has been gathering UFO government reports and getting them ready online for readers to go through. These reports are very important because it shows that the government in Australia was taking the matter seriously, meaning they know that aliens exist. Not all UFO reports turn out to be UFOs, but are often other things. So how to tell what reports are real or not? Well, here's 7 good tips. 1, the more detail in the report, the easier it is for you to decide if it's real or not. 2, photos or videos help tremendously. 3, eyewitness or professional jobs could be part of the mix there. 4, understanding the movement of the UFO. It helps you decipher if it's real or not, if it's just something on a string or something that is animated. Oftentimes you can tell by the movement. You have to look very closely though. The number of witnesses is important. The more, the bigger chance it's real. 6, the more blacked out lines, the bigger the chance of it being real. This is on information coming back from government sites. And 7, if photos were mentioned but missing from the report, it's probably real. Government will often destroy them before releasing the document. The report says that Queensland UFO sighting and research are about to release the biggest collection of official Australian UFO files ever. The files contain official documents from the RAAF, the Department of Air, the Navy, and more. The files contain testimony, photographs, newspaper scans, official reports, and patents. The full 1.7 gigabyte download will be available to the public via our website on May 1st, 2016. Okay, so coming up very soon, May 1st, that would be on Sunday. Sunday, things become available. Arkansas, hovering triangle. It says UFO phases the witness in Arkansas. A man driving along a dirt road at Malvern in Arkansas had a close encounter with a silent UFO more than 150 feet wide December 15th, 2015, approximately an hour before sundown. The UFO was reportedly hovering low just above the trees and passing his destination. He observed it for 30 seconds but did not stop, driving out of fear. The object had strange, bright blue lights that were pointed straight at the witness like 2 square eyes. The witness thought right there that it could see him. As the witness got closer to the UFO, the tree line blocked his view, or perhaps the view of the entity inside the UFO too. After about an hour, he noticed afterburners of a military jet fighter going south without lights. He estimated the UFO to be between 150 to 200 feet wide. The witness wasn't sure how long the UFO hovered there. He reported the close encounter to the MUFON, or the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, and that is why we and how and where we got the story. Jim Mars. What is the government hiding about aliens and UFOs? In the video, Luke Radowski interviews Jim Mars, an American journalist and the New Times best-selling author, to discuss the best evidence for extraterrestrial life and the history of government cover-ups on this topic. We not only go to the government's actions, but actually evidence with whistleblowers and official government documents. All right, so we have a video here. It's an 11-minute interview. I'm going to leave that for you. You've heard Jim Mars. You've certainly heard Luke Radowski's interviews. You know both of them are quality researchers and reporters, so you can be assured that what you will get in this interview will be good quality information. The link's available firstcontactradio.com. Here we have a Phoenix airport employee witnesses a silent triangle pass right over next to him. UFO reportedly spotted at airport by Phoenix Sky Harbor employee. Late on a Tuesday night at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, an employee was taking trash to a dumpster outside the air traffic control tower when a mysterious glow caught his attention. A massive V-shaped object was hovering off the ground light emanating from the bottom. The lights were what I noticed first. It was very large. As it passed beside me, the witness stated, I was in total disbelief that it was happening. It made no noise at all. The reported sighting occurred about 9 p.m. March 1st, but it was just recently investigated and reported by the Mutual UFO Network Witness Reporting Database. The airport employee described the object's movement as it traveled over the SkyTrain station when he lost sight of the lights. Although he believed it was otherworldly, he said he was not afraid. I didn't feel anything but shock as I pondered what had just taken place, he reported, along with an illustration of what he saw. The event lasted about 5 minutes or so. I felt calm, no sense of danger or apprehension afterwards, just a sense of wonder and amazement that something so huge could travel in the air and not make any noise. All right, here's a image and hand-drawn picture of what he saw. Goes on to say, in the last 10 years, I've seen a definite increase in UFO sightings in Arizona. This phenomenon is very, very real. We are not alone in the universe. Okay, so there you. All right, let's move on. We have one more story here. One more UFO story, that is. This was about the Baltic Sea UFO mystery. So the Baltic Sea UFO remains a huge mystery 5 years after its discovery. A weird alien craft lying at the bottom of one of the world's oceans is still baffling experts 5 years after it was surrounded by marine explorers. Bearing a striking similarity to a spaceship called the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, the sunken UFO called the Baltic Sea Anomaly was discovered 5 years ago by Swedish treasure hunters Ocean X team. A full 91-meter underwater, the team led by Captain Peter Lindbergh and co-researcher Dennis Asperg spotted it while using a side-scan sonar. But the curiosity of extraterrestrial enthusiasts was piqued when the crew revealed a technology malfunction on their search. Anything electric out there, and the satellite phone as well, stopped working when we were above the object, professional diver Stefan Hagerborn, part of the Ocean X team, said. This is what they think it looks like here. This is the object. You see it right there. And this is the idea of kind of sort of how it looks, which you can tell that it does. And then when we got about 200 meters, it turned on again. When we got back over the object, it didn't work. Measuring 61 meters wide, 8 meters tall, the circular shape was suspected of being everything from a giant mushroom to a sunken Russian ship to an alien spaceship, as shown in this Son of Ma Baker video. And the mystery deepened as geologist Steve Werner revealed from his tests that it was not a geological formation, revealing that the structure was created from metals which nature could not reproduce itself. Volker Brecht, an associate professor of geology at Stockholm University, revealed, my hypothesis is that this structure was formed during the Ice Age many thousands of years ago. Okay, that's from lifeslittlemysteries.com. Lindbergh and Asberg apparently told to Open Minds TV that the samples they gave for analysis weren't from the object itself, but from the vicinity of that object. In 2015, Lindbergh wrote an update for What's Up in the Sky, saying that although they had not recently visited the anomaly, they had passed by the side sonar in the water. However, they couldn't see anything new to report. He added, of a planned upcoming visit, we will pretty much just be able to do the same thing we did in 2012. It's not for sure yet, but since we're involved in a new TV project, it might give us the opportunity. In response to the question and answer session, he told one interested commentator what he believes it could be. I think this is something natural, however very odd in shape. It's very difficult to give an explanation what it might be exactly, since different scientists have different theories. For example, Kyle Kingman, marine geologist, are very certain it is a paleosol. Tom Flugden, marine geologist, thinks it might be a manganese module of tremendous size. Andreas Olsen, marine archaeologist, was quite certain it might be man-made after seeing the blue view sonar film and videos of all other scientists who had different theories. So what should I, who's a simple treasure hunter and not even an amateur within the fields of science, think? But Lindbergh's resistance to identify the anomaly hasn't stopped alien fans from speculating that it's tech from another planet, even after 5 years. Okay, so there's our object in question. Is this something real? You could see it's something real. Is this something that is man-made? Or is this something natural down there, as some scientists seem to think? That is the question. Real, UFO, or simply natural phenomena. All right, links available so you can check it out. That takes us up to, let's just check out confirm or deny. I'll be back.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Underground is where they live. In the bases that are secretive. We're not supposed to know where they come from or where they go. And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives? Plausible deniability. That's their answer to all we think we see. So pay attention. Read between the lines. Changes are happening, revealing lies. And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
All right. Continuing on. So, yesterday, if you were watching what went on yesterday, was another one of these primaries here in America. There were 5 states that were in play, and Donald Trump swept all 5 states, not just by a little bit, but by a lot. It's becoming pretty evident that he is the one that is the choice of the people. It's becoming pretty evident. What's also becoming pretty evident is the establishment is really going out of its way to try to stop him. In my entire life here on Earth, I have never seen politicians behave in this manner. I've seen them lie, cheat, and steal plenty of times. We all have. What I've not seen is a couple of guys ganging up on another guy like this, and an establishment that keeps talking about the guy who's winning by a big margin as if he's the enemy they need to get rid of. It's quite comical. It is quite comical to some degree, sad to another degree. What I find that during these time that we're in, it's actually a good time for those who have been involved with the conspiracy truth research over the course of the years, because truth is being revealed. For many years, I know I have talked to others and I've mentioned to them about the voting system, telling them your vote isn't counting. There's been many others like myself who have been telling people the same thing. Your vote doesn't count. The system isn't set up to recognize your vote properly. Now, here in 2016, after years of ridicule, those of us who have been saying your votes aren't counting are finally being vindicated, because Americans are finding out their votes don't count. Their votes aren't properly being tallied in with all of the others, and the whole delegate electoral process is now being looked upon in a different way. This is good because Americans need to see the corruption that's been going on. They need to understand how they've been lied to from year in and year out. So there's a lot of changes that are going on, lots of positive. And as I said yesterday, we have to keep moving along the path despite or in spite of all of the distractions that are going on. We need to keep walking that path. And the distractions that are out there in this physical reality are all aimed at keeping you absorbed within this physical reality. The distractions that are out there are intended to keep you away from going inside. Because once you go inside, once you connect with that spiritual aspect of who you are, it's a game changer. The physical reality is not about you understanding it. The physical reality is about you being trapped. Remember, the whole idea of why humankind was created was to trap a spark of God, so that that spark of God in the skin suit could be subservient to Yaldabaoth and his archons. However, that isn't what happened. That humankind, Adam and then Eve, once they were in the physical, spirit entered their being, and they were then animated with the truth of what's going on. Each and every one of us has that connection, but many times we turn a blind eye. Many times we go through life allowing ourselves to be chained to the block of ignorance because all we want to see is the physical world. We forget that there's something in there. So when we look at our physical reality, we have an opportunity to change it. We change it by the thoughts that we have. By the thoughts, we change what's going on. So our world reflects something different than what it is normally reflecting at us. Remember, the movie shows from inside that light shines out like a projector. It shines through us into the world, and the world reflects back to us like a movie, the movie that's inside of us. Now, as we're all going through this world, we're all movie projectors projecting into the world. So it's kind of an interactive movie as we go through things, which makes it interesting, which makes it frustrating, but nonetheless, it's an interactive movie that we're all part of. And so the clearer we get on going inside and removing these distractions, the more we understand that this isn't just a physical reality, but a reality that is inclusive of the fire, the water, the air, knowing that they are the energies that make up the earth. It changes things. And then on top of everything else, to understand that the guiding, animating principle of all is the source of life, God, Great Spirit, Divine Providence, that goes into the physical vehicle. Once we tap into that, well, there's our power source right there, my friends. And that is the game changer. That is the game changer. Now, we see all these changes going on. We're finding information that is coming to light that we really didn't understand in the past, and that's good because we're continuing to learn. Sometimes we have to unlearn the things that we think we know because we have been misled quite a bit. And that's one of the things we all discover once we start to study. We have been misled over and over and over again. Good example was yesterday the 9/11 information I brought up. It's 2016. 9/11 happened in 2001. That's 15 years. For 15 years, investigators have studied 9/11 on what happened, what brought the buildings down, interviews with witnesses, those who were there as first responders. I mean, there's an unbelievable amount of research. Mountains of research is available. Yet most people who have never seen that research will actually tell you to your face that there is no research, nothing exists. And they'll tell you that proudly and arrogantly without knowing the body of work that does exist, without knowing the peer-reviewed articles that exist, without understanding the books that have been written on the subjects. So there's a disconnect. When information is available and the general population first denies that it exists, and then when you tell them that it does, now is going to ridicule you for telling them it exists, there's a problem. So we need to unlearn some of the things that we've been taught, because some of the things we've been taught hasn't been in order to teach us so we would learn, but to condition us to behave a certain way. That's what it's all about, conditioning us. We turn on the TV for programming, because programming programs the watcher, whether it's a television show or a movie or what have you. It programs the watcher into whatever its agenda is. Okay? So there's my little spiel for the moment. A couple of stories that tie into this. This first story here says bright flash of light moment. Light flash of light marks the incredible moment life begins when sperm meets egg. Sarah Napton says human life begins in a bright flash of light as a sperm meets an egg. Scientists have shown for the first time after capturing the astonishing fireworks on film. An explosion of tiny sparks erupts from an egg at the exact moment of conception. Scientists had seen the phenomenon occur in other animals, but is the first time it is also shown to happen in humans. Not only is it an incredible spectacle highlighting the very moment that a new life begins, the size of the flash can be used to determine the quality of the fertilized egg. Researchers from Northwestern University in Chicago noticed that some of the eggs burn brighter than others, showing that they are more likely to produce a healthy baby. There we go. You can see right there the glowing. The discovery could help fertility doctors pick the best fertilized eggs to transfer during the in vitro fertilization. It was remarkable, said Professor Teresa Woodruff, one of the study's two senior authors and an expert in ovarian biology at Northwestern. We discovered the zinc spark just 5 years ago in the mouse, and to see the zinc radiate out of the burst from each human egg was breathtaking. It means that if you look at the zinc spark at the time of fertilization, you will know immediately which eggs are the good ones to transfer into the vitro fertilization process. It's a way of sorting egg quality in a way we've never been able to access before. All of biology starts at the time of fertilization, yet we know next to nothing about the events that occur in the human. Currently, around 50% of the fertilized eggs do not develop properly, and experts believe that faulty genetic code could be responsible. Some clinics take videos of the egg developing to try to pick up problems early, while others check for genetic mutations. But that is an invasive procedure which can damage the tiny egg. Often it is just down to a clinician to decide which eggs look the healthiest, but the new findings could get extra indication that an egg is flourishing. A video of 9 human eggs coming into contact with sperm enzyme shows 2 flashed much brighter than the rest. This is an important discovery because it may give us a non-invasive and easy, visible way to assess the health of an egg and eventually an embryo before implantation, said co-author Dr. Eve Feinberg, who took care of the patients who provided eggs for the basic science study and collaborated with the research team. There are no tools currently available that tell us if the good quality egg. Often we don't know whether the egg or embryo is truly viable until we see if a pregnancy ensues. That's the reason why this is so transformative. If we have the ability to upfront to see what is a good egg and what's not, it will help us to know which embryo to transfer, avoid a lot of heartache, and achieve pregnancy much more quickly. All right, you see there's much more to the article, but when does life begin? Well, by the very evidence of the light. When there's the interaction between the sperm and egg, it would appear that when they interact, life begins. There's a spark. Kind of seems reminiscent when we hear the description from the Nag Hammadi, how the father and the mother, when they interacted, the spark of light and light was created, the Christ consciousness. So it seems as if there is some sort of similar thing going on in that regard. All right, so there you go, something to contemplate. All right, I'm going to jump over into a subject that is Well, you may think it's a bizarre subject, but bizarre subjects don't scare me, and we've talked about plenty of bizarre subjects before. This one is dealing with the subject of satellites. Now, you've heard me talk about the theory of the shape of the Earth, that the Earth is a flat plane with a dome over it called the firmament, and that all things underneath the firmament and the Earth are contained within a particular system, this dome. We're told that satellites are moving about us and around the world, but there's a theory that these satellites are just a story for us, that they really aren't existing. I know you might say that this seems very bizarre. Of course they exist because you know that they exist, but I'm going to show you some information here to bring up some questions that might have you thinking things a little bit differently. Okay, so let's start off here with this article. This is a good site here. It's called a plaintruth.info. So we're going to start off with this one here called Satellites Don't Exist. The origins of satellites came from the mind of a famous science fiction author, Arthur C. Clarke. He wrote the 1945 proposal by Arthur C. Clarke for geostationary satellite communications. Arthur C. Clarke was a high-level Freemason as well as a homosexual and self-professed pedophile. Throw in Satanism and you've got one heck of a guy. Arthur C. Clarke was writing science fiction stories along with other notable sci-fi writers, Philip K. Dick, Robert Heinlein, and L. Ron Hubbard. Arthur C. Clarke did initially claim to know Hubbard, however later he denied that statement and thought L. Ron Hubbard to be completely crazy. That link to Hubbard had been broken, and all-out rebuke works well. Now, there is a 7-year overlap between 1945 and 52 when Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Arthur C. Clarke were all alive and were witness to the science fiction industry exploding into the eager minds of young people. I find that the Roswell crash in July 1947 quite timely, and it certainly propelled the interest in space and mania levels. Hollywood didn't miss the cues, and since they're owned by the Khazarian Rothschilds, Hollywood started cranking out sci-fi movies by the truckload. And at the top of the sci-fi movie heap was the great undiscovered frontier, space. The Khazarians saw an opportunity to make a ton of money by pushing the space meme. At some point, a scheme was hatched to fake launched satellites into space for profit. NASA also became a tool to constantly remind humans of our insignificance in the boundless cosmic order. NASA had been beating the divinity out of us with the pseudoscience, propaganda, and spiritual delineation. In other words, control. Pre-NASA hadn't accumulated and assimilated the intellectual property from Jack Parsons to the point where he was no longer needed or wanted. Sputnik 1 was launched first in 57, shockingly fooling the world, and Explorer 1 soon followed in 58, but the year NASA was created. NASA also was created to militarize space and the atmosphere below it. But why? Simple. In order to conceal the deception of Khazarian mafia and their Freemason minions. The Khazarians needed to secure the perimeter and to operate above any jurisdiction. All information above our heads towards skyward was now in the hands of NASA as the official source. In other words, the propaganda machine was created. It's laughable when you realize we're solely reliant on just one source for all information regarding the cosmos, NASA. Along with the controlled major media, NASA is free to disperse as much CGI, Pixar, Photoshop fairy tales as fast as we can gobble them up. I guarantee you the Satanists of NASA have been laughing a long time about their ruses. However, they're being exposed more than ever as incompetent pseudoscience degenerates when real scrutiny is applied. Seemingly unrelated, in 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was signed and is now totally off limits, backed by military force. The North Pole is also militarized, though no formal multilateral agreements exist. Still, any attempt to traverse either will result in immediate military expulsion and possible jail time. To date, no human has ever transversed Antarctica, ever. Think about that for a moment to consider the absurdity of it. There's still a continent that has never been explored, and we're not allowed to access it. Why? Even the treaty wiki page uses satellite composites image of Antarctica. But where's the real photo? Hold on now. NASA can somehow send a satellite to Ceres 257 million miles away without a hitch, but the deepest hole ever drilled here on Earth is only 7.5 miles out of a total of 3,959 miles to the center of the Earth. The other 3,952.5 miles is unknown, and pseudoscience fills in the blanks with no true hypothesis, just blather. Man hasn't even been to the bottom of his own ocean. So if we haven't mastered our own domain, how probable is it that NASA could send a probe 257 million miles to Ceres and retrieve such stunning images? Probability 0. The only real images of Ceres that exist inside where they were created on the hard drives of NASA computers. We will return to this aspect of Antarctica a little later, so consider it a seed that has been planted. The Khazarian Mafia saw another opportunity to steal billions along with fiat currency, central bank thievery, and debt-based slavery. The opportunity was satellites launched into orbit. They had their man, Freemason Arthur C. Clarke, waiting in the fold to ride shotgun, writing science fiction genre as if it were mere science. He was the key piece in creating the exploding interest in space and the great mysteries of the cosmos. Clarke was the perfect asset that NASA needed, thus building the occult foundation of Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Walt Disney. Clarke's sci-fi prowess elevated his fictional ideas as seemingly plausible and scientific. Behind the veil of NASA, a symbolic baton was passed to Clarke, who becomes the key to both the Apollo fraud and the ongoing satellite fraud. Jack Parsons here is, remember JPL? That's Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons Labs. So Jack Parsons, a Satanist, and Aleister Crowley, a Satanist, are connected with L. Ron Hubbard, Walt Disney, and NASA. How convenient was it that Arthur Clarke's 2001: A Space Odyssey was made into a movie by Stanley Kubrick in 1968, and that the Apollo 11 moon landings was faked by Kubrick in '69. One could surmise that 2001: A Space Odyssey was a dry run prior to Apollo. It also smacks of predictive programming with a little MK Ultra mixed in. 2001: A Space Odyssey was the primer for the Apollo hoax. Since we know from Part 1 that ISIS is fake, then I posit that all satellites are illusionary and don't exist. The only thing that exists are the profit margins of the Khazarian Mafia. Satellites are pseudoscience, and there is no credible evidence that they exist. No actual photos, no actual video footage, only CGI, Pixar, Photoshop satellites. The staunch evidence that satellites do not exist is paradoxically simple because there's no credible proof that they exist. People remark, yeah, but I saw the International Space Station. Consider for a moment that what you saw was an inflatable replica. In World War II, the U.S. made wide use of inflatable tanks and rubber airplanes to deceive Hitler's reconnaissance efforts. William Cooper left this quote: "Exploration of the moon stopped because it was impossible to continue the hoax without being discovered. And of course they ran out of pre-filmed episodes. No man has ever ascended higher than 300 miles, if that high above the Earth's surface. At or under that altitude, the astronauts are beneath the radiation of the Van Allen radiation belt, and the Van Allen belt shields them from the extreme radiation which permeates space. No man has ever orbited, landed on, or walked upon the moon in any publicly known space program. So how many manned missions to the planetary body could they fake? Just enough to set the table for the real goal. Thousands of fake satellites launched into space and big profit margins. This was a much safer and secure revenue stream for Khazarians, and having never returned to the moon makes the case. We used the same method of financial investigation that was used in Part 1 to connect the Khazarian subsidiaries to NASA and back to Hollywood. So let's look at some of the companies involved in the satellite sector. You want to look for 4 Khazarian Rothschild companies that are major stakeholders: Vanguard Group, State Street Corporation, Fidelity, and BlackRock. If you go to investors.morningstar.com and put in the ticker symbol, look for equity ownership, institutions, and you'll see the same entities in control. As you see, they are plenty of publicly held companies and a bevy of privately held contractors whose majority stakeholders could quite possibly be the Khazarians. Okay, so if you scroll down here, it continues getting into talking about the owners of these satellites and so on. It says, don't forget, as in part one, the same institutional majority stockholders of major Hollywood companies and subsidiaries such as Disney, Comcast, MGM, Time Warner, DreamWorks, Sony are Khazarian owned. Again, go to invest.morningstar.com and look up these companies. So as you get down here, one of the questions is then, if these satellites don't exist, how do we get this satellite information that we get? Well, what satellite information are we getting? That's the first question. We say our satellite televisions, perhaps the satellite that's coming through our phone, but we're not actually seeing anything. We're just told that the signal is coming from a satellite. The place where we really see any imagery is Google Earth. But we know that Google Earth doesn't rely upon satellites because they send a car driving through the streets to capture images, right? You've seen the car. I've seen the car. We can go online. We can see pictures of the car. It drives all around America. So there are methods, and one of the things that is described here are the various methods used that could be employed as opposed to satellites in order to get the same information. Okay, and it goes into more examples of why, and then it gets into showing these militarized projects of these helium-type balloons, which could go up and stay up as much as a month. And they don't have to go deep into space, and they certainly can be high enough and moving along enough with the cameras that they could do everything that we're told is being done by these satellites. These platforms that are out there. It's very different type. Halo, Sky Station, Substrat, Arc, Sky Tower, Heliopad, Japanese HAPS. Okay, so there's a lot to this article, as you can see. Now we get into another section here. 4 basic facts that NASA can't or won't explain. How do satellites survive 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit plus degrees in space? There are only 7 elements on the periodic table that could withstand the heat, and none has been used for satellites. Satellites allegedly mainly reside in the thermosphere, where temperatures can soar to 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit plus. So, saying that it's not plausible for that to be. We don't think about that. It's not something that's normally told to us, but it gets hot in here. How could they survive? Next, estimates seem to be varying the number of the satellites supposed to orbit. The latest number to date is 1,265 functioning satellites, with as many as 370,000 pieces of space junk whizzing around at speeds up to 22,000 miles per hour. Got a database here of supposed satellites, and there's an article of the Daily Mall that had 3 points listed below. I find it odd that they report 22,000 objects that can travel up to 22,000 miles an hour. The odds that these numbers are identical by chance is as likely as the sun being exactly 4 times larger and 400 times further away to create the illusion that it's identical to the side of the moon. 22 is considered an occult signature of event numbers. Okay, so go on, and different reasons why. And here we go. Here's 18 different ways that one could get the same information that we get from what we think we're getting from a satellite. It says, as I've said to you before, there are 18 platforms that can be used independently, in tandem, or groups to provide the services that satellites provide. And we have things like this. Okay, so links available so you can check this out. First thing, don't just read this article and take it for face value. Use this simply as a launching pad to go and to do further research. This is just one bit of research, but as you can tell from just my scrolling up and down, there's a lot of information here. As you follow the links from this story, you can go read other bits of information to see what's going on here. If the satellite system is not what we're told, if we can do the same things with the air platforms, the cars that drive through the street, and the other ways of getting information, if we can do that without satellites, then what is going on with the satellite program? It's quite possible, just another one of the deceptions as this article relates, because this relates into the whole idea, or it's in the story line of the Earth and the shape of the Earth and the monitoring of the Earth that takes place by the beings that are associated with this Earth, in this case the Archons, Yaldabaoth, those various beings. So there's a lot more going on, and we can either turn a blind eye and say everything is just as our books tell us, and we could pretend that the military and religion and government doesn't lie to us. We could pretend that. It's a nice little hope, nice little pretend game, but then when we come back to reality, we find out that they lie to us over and over and over again without remorse or regret. So, being that we're lied to, perhaps it's time that we take a look at some of these lies to understand what is going on. Remember, in the Truman Show, everything was all hunky-dory for Truman until the light fell from the sky and fell to the ground. Then he started realizing something was weird. There's something weird going on the Earth here. There's something weird about the way in which our system has not been adequately and accurately described to us. It's as if we're trapped in a large terrarium and we need to get out. And how do we get out? Well, Yeshua, Jesus, came to show us how to get out, came to show us how we get out of the skin suit, how it doesn't matter that the skin suit was made by this other being. Yeshua came to show that there was nothing that was going to keep spirit from evolving that suit to be whatever it needed to be, because spirit was in charge of things, not anybody or anyone else. So that is how we get out. We pay attention to what Jesus has said to us. We have to look, though, past the biblical stories, because the words of Jesus, some of the very important words, aren't included in the Bible, because man decided they weren't going to include those. Remember, history as we know it is written by those who won. So when you win, just think about, during Jesus' time, what was it they wanted to do? They wanted to silence him from speaking, correct? So do you think after they were successful in silencing him from speaking, do you think they then went and said, now let's write about him in all of our books? Let's tell everybody what he said? Do you think that's how it went? It's not how it went. They silenced him. They didn't want his words getting out. So most likely after his death, after his crucifixion, most likely they struck the information from him from the books. They were probably instructed to not talk about it. So when the Nicene Council came along, they simply twisted and adjusted the stories to suit their needs so that they themselves could get you to believe that Jesus was part of them. But that's not the case. They're lying. So we need to be aware of all these lies, my friend. We have to be aware of these lies and deceits. Or we can keep getting fooled. But I know that one of the statements that Jesus says over and over and over again is, do not be deceived. We have to seek and find, meaning that something is hidden. We have to ask to receive, meaning that we don't have what we need. We have to ask for it. So there's a lot that's out there that we need to seek out, but we're not going to seek it out if we're afraid that doing so might have some consequences on us that we're not going to like. Okay? So move on here. This is an article from body, mind, spirit, soul, and spirit. It's called How to Bring Positive Energy into Your Home by Jamie Barrett. House blessing is an ancient tradition that invites positive energy into your home. Your home is an extension of your body and spirit. As you give to your home and give to yourself, as you might have experienced, your space reflects and affects your inner life. If you bless your home and lavish it with love, it becomes a gracious holder of your dreams. During a house blessing, you can imbibe the space with love, harmony, health, happiness, and prosperity. It is especially potent to do a house blessing after cleaning the physical rooms and performing a space cleansing. You should always clean before you energize. Blessing your house is akin to blessing it with prayers and positive intentions. You can do a house blessing before you move into a new space, or when you want to bless a space you already inhabit in a new purposeful way. For example, you may do a house blessing when a new spouse moves in or a baby comes into your life. It can also be done after you clear the clutter and you want to invite fresh energy into your home. You can perform a house blessing by yourself, with your family, your friends. The more positive intentions you invoke, the better. If you invite like-minded friends to participate, you might ask them to bring a special prayer, poem, or ritual to share. Here are 5 steps from Feng Shui your life to create a harmonious house blessing. And we have, let's see, the 5 here are: set the tone by playing sacred music. Ask everyone to stand in a circle. Welcome and thank your friends and family for being part of the occasion. Light a pink candle. Pink brings the energy of love and kindness. Pass it to each new person, who then shares a blessing. You may also walk to different areas of the house, stating specific intentions for each room as a way of consecrating it for a special purpose. When the house blessing comes to an end, place the pink candle in the center of the home. Burn it at least an hour. Open all east windows and doors to invite the life-giving energy of the rising sun into your house. Okay, so there are many house blessing prayers, so feel free to research one that is right to you. Here's a particular one that she uses: to the divine spirit or universal energy, supreme one, etc. In lighting this candle, we summon love, harmony, peace, and prosperity into our home. May we be blessed with good health, happiness, success, and abundance. May this home be a sacred dwelling for us and our children. May those who visit us feel peace and love. We decree that our home is now shielded from harm, illness, or misfortune. Thank you for bringing divine light, love, and energy into our hearts, rooms, and endeavors. With tremendous gratitude, we thank you in full faith. So be it, and so it is. Okay. One way I like to do the blessings and everything is I like to use sage. And I'll use sage, and I'll use that in conjunction with the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not fear. And I'll go through the rooms, and I'll walk through the house, and I'll walk along the perimeter in a clockwise manner. And I'll go and I'll be doing prayer along the way, and just burning the incense, burning the sage to cleanse out any of the negativity or the energies that have built up. Sometimes energy just gets stale and you just need to clear the space. And so there's many great ways out there. The whole idea is knowing that we can call forth positive energy simply with our words and our intents, our actions. And as we do that, we clear the space with this positive energy and we release the old stale energy. It's pretty simple. It's not an overly complicated process. And there you have it. That brings us up to a channeled message for today. Here we go.
Archangel Gabriel Daily Message Tuesday, April 26th, 2016 by Shelley Young. Many of you are in the process of big
Okay. Seem to be having some sort of a challenge here. Let's try this again. Refresh the page. Maybe that'll make all the difference in the world. Then again.
Archangel Gabriel Daily Message Tuesday, April 26th, 2016 by Shelley Young. Many of you are in the process of big change in your service, change in your location, change in your love life, change in your relationship to self. The reason for this is because the energies are now to the point where they can open new potentials, that will allow you to discover possibilities you have not been aware of. On a soul level, many of you are agreeing to new service contracts, as well, that will take you in new exciting directions and expressions of self. Dear ones, we understand it can be disconcerting to feel deep, profound change and not have any idea of where you are going just yet. That is where your trust and faith come in. You are well prepared for this. You have learned how to surrender and flow, and how to move with the universe in a far more empowered way. Be open. Remember that the universe can bring to you results far beyond what you could imagine for yourself. Continue to explore yourself, your truth, and what brings you joy. Use your gifts and the endless supports that are available to you. Embrace the magic of the unfoldment that you have both co-created and earned, as you continue to so beautifully drive the shift on your planet. Archangel Gabriel.
All right, good message. Really good message. You know, it's important that we remember, as it says, that we are co-creating with the universe. Okay? We're co-creating. That is the process that occurs. And co-creating simply is understanding and acknowledging that there is a higher power out there that we are working with. We don't want to be ignorant and arrogant. We don't want to think that we are the be-all end-all source of this, because we're not. So we find a way to co-create with this energy, and we learn to bring positive energy into the world through this process. It really isn't that difficult. The biggest challenge we have is we move through life on a daily basis with tons of distractions that are trying to take us away from that true source. And so we need to make a point every single day to take time out away from those distractions. It's the only way that we're going to be distraction free. We have to take time out, and we have to strengthen our ability to focus despite the distractions. So in spite of all of the challenges and distractions, we have to keep walking that path. And we have to walk that path in faith. And faith, as I've said, is not just faith in God, because God is what God is. God's not going to stop being what God is. So the faith isn't that God can work and do what God does. The faith is our ability to be able to manifest that energy and bring that divinity through us. That's the challenge. So we need to have faith in our ability to bring forth that which is already in us. Because the Spirit's there. The fact that we are moving, living, and breathing is because Spirit is in us. So we just need to bring it out, allow it to shine. And that's where the faith is, the faith that we can do it. And then once we have that faith, we find out that energy can move forward and do miraculous things. It's not because our faith caused it to do that, because the universe, God, can do miraculous things. It's our ability in believing that we can bring that through us. That's where the real faith comes in. Having faith in that Spirit, that when we let it flow through us, all things change for positive. Okay? So there you go. Brings us to our meditation for today. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. And another breath. And exhale. Let's just imagine ourselves seated in a field. And we're seated in this field, and we can feel the wind as the breeze moves all around us. We feel the heat and the warmth of the sun as it shines upon us. We see and hear the sounds of the water and the stream nearby. And we can touch the grass and see the flowers and the trees and the physical world around us. And we see all of these things. And then we remind ourselves that this is just one aspect of creation. This is the physical aspect, the place where the energy manifests itself in a way that is a bit denser than the energy above it. So as we look past this physical reality, we see that this physical energy is vibrating and moving slowly, that it is alive with life, that the universe breathes in and out. And as we see this working taking place, we understand that the workings of the universe supersede that of the physical reality. And by understanding the universal workings, we understand more about our place in this reality. So as we move through life, we just practice having faith, using faith, knowing that the source of divinity, Great Spirit, God, Divine Providence, Holy Spirit, whatever name you want to assign to this source, but we understand that this source is and always shall be omnipotent, divine, prosperous, abundant. And we understand that when we exercise true faith, we are exercising the option to bring forth that which we know is pure and true. And as we have faith in our ability to bring forth divinity that shines within us, we find that our life takes on a different set of values. We find that the guiding force of our life is truth, and that the Spirit flowing through us moves us along the path, protecting us along the way. So as we go forth this day, let's just practice allowing that Spirit to flow through us. Practice exercising our faith. Let that be enough. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey, bringing Spirit through exercising our faith. And let the conscious mind come back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. 1, coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. Lots of interesting information, something to consider. Go back and check out the links. Don't take everything I said at face value. Research further. You know, we all have to think for ourselves. We share this information with each other, but then we need to go and each individually look it up, study, understand, so we can have this understanding for each one of us. And once we all get it, once we all understand what this is really about, things change in a drastic way, because we find that we're no longer chained to the block of ignorance. We now become enlightened, we become aware, and that is our true destiny, to become aware and rise above the situation of the physical to the world of the immortal realm. That's it for today, my friends. I'll be back. Thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to the show. Please be sure to like the show, share it with your friends, you know, make copies of it, download it, whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do, just sharing the information. My job is just to be the messenger, and then what you do with it from there, well, that's up to you. Thank you very much for being here. I'll be back. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.